I'm invited to talk about community-based research or community-based participatory research, and these slides Colleen, Reid and myself put together for a workshop we did March of 2012, I think. So I need to give her credit for pulling together some of these slides. And there are many terms for participatory research. You'll see them in the literature as collaborative research, participatory action research, or PAR action research, feminist research, feminist action research, and community-based research tends to be the one that's used in Canada. I tend to add in with participatory processes because it has left the participatory out of it, and community-based participatory research tends to be the term used in the USA. But any of these really, as I'm giving you this introduction to CBR, they're all synonymous. And what they have in common is they seek multiple perspectives, and the goal of the research is action and social change. And so traditional researchers have swooped in, collected data, and left. And this has been epitomized by the Aboriginal communities who have said outside research teams swooped down from the skies, swarmed all over town, asked nosy questions that were none of their business, and then disappeared, never to be heard of again. And so community-based research is an attempt to do research with those affected, not on or about those affected. And some of the definitions include it's conducted by, for, and with the participation of community members. Community-based research aims not merely to advance understanding, but also to ensure that knowledge contributes to making a concrete and constructive difference in the world. And I love this diagram from 1969 that talks about the degrees of participation in citizen participation. Some of you may have seen this in some of your previous courses, and we can actually translate this to the research ladder, so that if you're looking at, say, RCTs, that would be the lowest degree of participation, where you're actually manipulating variables and trying to compare them. As you're moving up the ladder, degrees of tokenism, consultation would be qualitative research, where you're doing in-depth interviews, or focus groups where you're consulting with people. And community-based research attempts to create partnerships where people are equal, they're given power, and then ultimately the idea is through the processes that people are getting more empowered to actually take more ownership over the research process. So we're looking at the research relationships. Generally on the left there, the man doing lab research on some poor patient, that is a unilateral kind of top-down research relationship. And you go across the spectrum from consultative to participatory and to more democratic, where the research subjects are actually partners, equal partners in the research process. And so the promise of CBR is that there should be, it's like three legs of a stool, and they should be equal. That you should be getting systematic investigation, which is a generation of new knowledge. You should also have people who are engaging in mutual learning, capacity building, and reciprocal education. So everybody at the table, the academics, the community partners, the policymakers, whoever, are all involved together as equal partners. And then the third leg is for the purposes of action and social change, which would be conducive to health. And if things are working, you will get diverse perspectives are embraced, you get a redistribution of power in the relationships, and everyone benefits from the research. And the ultimate goal in health research is that it's in improved health and well-being. So where does the question come from? So in a traditional research paradigm, the research question comes from, obviously it's your idea, but you've done an academic literature search, you've looked at previous research, and academic collaborators are coming up with a research question which directs the research process in a very linear fashion. So you get your results, which then contribute to the academic literature, and so it goes on. And in CBR, it's much more of an iterative approach. So the research question doesn't come from the academics. It is driven by the community needs assessment, or the community academic collaborators, or the community activists. But it may be coming from previous research. It may have contributed from the academic literature or a policy issue or question. And then the actual research process is very collaborative, and then the results of the research may not have much impact in the academic literature, but it may have a lot of impact locally in terms of action and policy change. And so as you're thinking about, if you as a resident are thinking about, you're interested in participatory research, there are lots of things to read and things to think about. It's actually very difficult to do participatory research in a 2-year time span. So for a family practice resident to do it, you have to be very brave. And you should, I think I've got 5, I've been speaking for 5 minutes. You have to, ideally you have to be able to join something that's already ongoing. So if you already have relationships with a community organization and you're already engaged in volunteer work, and they are interested in asking a research question and you are interested in working with them, that would be the ideal. Or if you could join into an organization that is really looking for somebody to come on and help them with their research, that is ideal. But as you're starting it, you think about the different relationships that are involved in this organization. You maybe would be the academic researcher or the clinical researcher, there's a service provider, the policymaker, the peer researcher, and the research participants. And you think about all of their goals, their professional goals, their organizational goals. How are these goals combined, and how well are they going to be achieved? And so as I'm reflecting about the CBR that I've done inside prison, I look about the different processes, formulating the research question, designing the methods, doing the data collection, the data analysis, and the dissemination action. And so I can reflect on which aspects of which bits of the research was everybody involved in. And ideally the research participants, who in a traditional setting are the subjects, should be involved in every aspect of the research. That's the ideal, but in reality that doesn't always happen. Similarly, when I've been doing CBR in the community, again reflecting on who's been involved in what, the peer researchers or the research participants have been involved in every one, and ideally you'd have all of these stakeholders involved in all aspects. This is a tool that you might find helpful if you're thinking about embarking on CBR. It's not for the faint-hearted, but I do encourage you. There are a couple of residents who have embarked on CBRs, and you would find their abstracts on the intranet. One completed hers in 2013, another one is starting, so she'll be completing in 2014. But it would be worthwhile looking at what they did and their results. And these are some really good resources if you want to read up some more about community-based research. So thank you for listening.